Alright everybody, welcome back! So today we're going to be taking out the Rank 7 American Premium, the A-6 TRAM. I do just want to go ahead and thank my YouTube members. I appreciate y'all supporting the channel, I really do. So, now, let's go ahead and get going with the video, of course. So, like I said, this is the A-6E TRAM, the Rank 7 US Premium that got out of this patch, along with some of the other Rank 7 Premiums. This is the only one, as far as I'm aware, that doesn't face at least top tier vehicles at some point. Sitting at 10.0, of course, and then you get access to AIM-9Ls, an assortment of bombs, including guided bombs. Those are great for cast. I'll be talking about that later on in the video. I'll have a timestamp in the description. But at least for ARB, what you're really going to be interested in are the 20mm gun pods, the AIM-9Ls, and possibly the bombs. But I'm going to talk about the bombs here in a little bit. Now, the AIM-9L. In my opinion, the best IR missile, especially at this BR. At 10.0, it is actually ridiculous. You get a lot of planes like the Harrier GR1 right there that don't have flares. This is the biggest plague at the BR, in my opinion, right now. Just the proliferation of all-aspect missiles at a BR where you can still see planes that don't have flares. And even if they have flares, like this MiG-21 SMT, people still aren't really expecting an all-aspect missile to come at them. So that SMT right there, it didn't see until the last second, didn't have time to flare. Now, luckily, of course, this plane does have flares. It has AIM-9Ls, it has the 20mm gun pod. It's got premium bonuses, although the Silver Lion modifier isn't the best, so if you're looking to grind SL, I would not pick this plane up. It is pretty good when it comes to grinding through the tech tree. Now, in my opinion, it's not very enjoyable to fly. It's kind of a brick. It does pull. You can see I'm pulling up to 12 Gs depending on the speed. But what it doesn't like to do is to respond to input, I guess, is the best way I can put it. So it'll pull, but it takes a while before it actually begins to pull, if that makes sense. Another thing is that it doesn't fly the way I expect a plane to fly, especially when it comes to stuff like rolling. The nose loves to drop whenever you're rolling. I think it's because of those massive spoilers in the wings. I don't know if this is actually historically accurate or not, but it's messed me up quite a few times, especially in stuff like this head-on I'm about to take with this Draken right here. Luckily, in this case, I'm barely rolling, but you can see my mouse keeps jerking every time. Well, I should say my crosshair keeps jerking every time I roll. And later on, it's going to get really bad. I'll point it out again there, but you do have to keep that in mind. If you're going to take the head on, it's best to just go back to mouse aim so you're not affected as badly, at least. Now, what I was saying about bombs. I would not recommend bringing bombs out right off the bat. This plane is already kind of a brick. Loading it down with, 18 bombs like I did right here is not a good recipe for the start of the match where you have a bunch of planes in the area. Now, if you go back to base like I did right here and you decide, you know what? I want to go ahead and load up some bombs and then beam a MiG-23 in the head-on as well while I'm bombing the base, fine, by all means. But I would not bring it right off the bat. I would wait until you know that it's safe before you go ahead and do so. It's a nice little bit of extra RP, but you're going to get more kills from a longer match, and you'll get a longer match if you actually survive, not just go bomb a base and then die. Now, the gun, or lack thereof, I should say. It does not actually get an internal gun, so you have to bring the gun pod, right, like I see right here. Now, it does throw off your aim, at least in my experience it does. At least in this case, unlike with the AJ Vigan, you get tracers, so you're able to walk your shells in the target. But it's also very inaccurate. So a lot of the time, you'll put a stream of bullets into someone like a tornado right there, and it won't actually kill them because they only get hit by, 5 or 6 rounds instead of the full 30-round burst that should have hit them. It also makes it more difficult to aim. Like you see right there, I just entirely missed that SE-25 because the thing is rotating around my aircraft while I'm doing it. So you do got to kind of get used to it. I have seen some people running 2 gun pods, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, just personally, especially at this BR, the AIM-9L is so strong that I would rather have 3 of them. I've actually seen some people ditching the gun altogether and going with 4 AIM-9Ls, but personally I wouldn't recommend that. Just because at this BR you still get people like that MiG-21 SPSK right there that are still running flares, and you don't want to be left without a way to kill them. You also don't have any radar missiles, so unlike, for example, one of the later Phantoms, you really don't have any other options. Now you can see that MiG-21S right there was almost 4 kilometers away when I launched that missile, and it still absolutely beams him. This SPSK wasn't paying attention and gets beamed in the head-on before he can flare. These missiles do not belong at this BR. It needs to go up. Same thing right here with these T2s I'm about to fight. What are they going to do? The only chance they have is if they manage to get into a head-on. And you can see right here, that is that nose dipping I was talking about whenever I roll. But if they can get into a head-on with me in time and fire a missile to decoy it. Otherwise, they just eat the AIM-9L and die. So, like I said, I wouldn't say it's a fun plane to fly, but it is a good grinder. So you had that going for you. Now, I will say one area where it is really good is in ground RB in the casserole. This plane is really good there. I honestly think it's too low in BR, both in air and in ground. And it's actually currently the only option other than the Tech Tree A10 that is able to do night gas for the US. So unless you want to have Maverick on an A10, you have to pay $70 to have something with laser-guided bombs, which I don't really appreciate. Now you can see you do get thermals to the site, which is really nice. You see I'm able to pick out all these tanks right here as they're coming towards them. Now I do go ahead and drop a bomb right here, and you would think I'd be good. The problem is I didn't pay attention to where I actually was whenever I dropped it. So you can see I'm actually going to go ahead and spectate the bomb here in a second. And I'm actually directly over it, the target right now. The laser isn't actually in the seeker head for the bomb. So one thing you probably want to do, once you lock up a target, like I did right here, you want to go into third person most of the time, see where the bomb is actually dropping with the CCIP crosshair, and have it in the rough area so the seeker head of the bomb can actually pick up the laser target whenever it's on the way down. Otherwise, it just flies off the map like mine did right there and does nothing. This thing, however, gets a lot of GBUs, so you don't have to worry about that. It can carry 9 with the loadout I'm doing right here. I think it can carry up to 10. I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, it is a ridiculous amount of bombs for this BR, and it should not be here. Especially since, I mean, if you get a down tier, there's only 1 or 2 SAMs that can actually counter you. But you can see, having that thermal sight, having the laser-guided bombs is a huge, huge benefit. And if you're looking for something for CAS, and you're willing to spend $70, I wouldn't condone it. But this thing is really, really good. I would honestly argue that it's better than... And it's definitely better than any other Tech Tree thing at 10.0. It's arguably better than some of the top-tier planes at CAS as well, like the F4E, for example, depending on the situation. Because if you get a night battle, the Mavericks and the Walleyes on the F4E are not going to work. This thing, however, just doesn't care. I will say, I wouldn't recommend doing what I'm doing right now, like sticking straight over the battlefield like this. I'm doing this for footage. If you can, get up high and away and lob the bombs in that way, you're much more likely to survive. I got lucky in this case, and there wasn't a SAM up, so I was able to just sit here donking T-72s with bombs, but you do have to keep that in mind. It's definitely better to go ahead and keep your distance. These bombs will glide quite a distance, so especially if you get some speed under them. Now, if you are going to sit over the battlefield like I'm doing right here, keep your altitude up. Radar from the AAs can't really look straight up unless it's the new Pantsir that's coming out next patch. So you're able to stay above their radar. You can see my RWR isn't even going off right now. They're going to have a harder time spotting me than if I was down low trying to drop in for bombs. And then you can just use your thermal sight to find targets like I'm doing right here. Just lock them up. By the way, that keybind is activate target point. That's what you're looking for, because I've seen a lot of people asking me about that for aircraft. It's not the same as the helicopter keybind. That right there is for all of your aircraft, at least for your plane. And I think the drones as well use the same key. So I'm able to sit here orbiting above the battlefield, dropping these bombs on them. And I believe I'm actually going to get attacked here in a second by another aircraft. Yep, right there. Now, you can bring loadouts, of course, that have missiles to defend yourself. I probably should have. If you're looking for a pure CAS loadout, that's not the bet, but you're probably better off bringing at least something for self-defense. For example, you could put a couple AIM-9s on there, and then just carry 6 bombs, for example, which would still be very good for CAS, while still give you the option to defend yourself. So, overall, this thing definitely needs to get moved up in VR. Laser-guided bombs and AIM-9Ls at 10.0 is just ridiculous. It should be at least 10.7 in my opinion, maybe even 11.0. Get the A-10s, the A-6s, and the F-25s out of my supersonic jets, please. It does have issues, of course. Flight performance isn't that great, and it has a tendency to rip itself, but that really doesn't justify these missiles and stuff at this BR. Hope you all enjoyed, though, and see y'all next time. Peace.